Three, two, one. Heroes in the mid shell. Turtle power. Hello, hello everyone, and welcome to this next episode of Baycast, the podcast to talk about all things Michael Bay. I'm your host, Jacob,
Co-host Mike.
and today we're going to be talking about a movie that has been confused with an actual Michael Bay directed movie. Probably on millions of, well, not millions, but like thousands of occasions. Teenage Mutant
This is
Ninja
right.
Turtles.
Yeah, I mean, this is produced by him, and it has Megan Fox in it, and it's clearly ripping off the sort of vibe and looks of those movies, but it is not actually a Michael Bay directed film.
Yeah, no, it is not. This one's interesting because this is only I believe this is only the second movie on this podcast that I've watched beforehand. I'd watched Transformers 2007 like before we did the episode, and I watched this one before we did the episode back in 2014 when this movie came out, and I think at the time I liked it, but I was a dumb 11-year-old kid who pretty much liked anything that was in front of him, and I guess I'll preface this by saying that I am like a minor fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like I like the 2010s cartoon on Nick that came out at the time, which is why
The
I watched
2012
that.
animated series.
2012. Which
I've seen a good amount of that show too.
Yeah. I'm not sure how well it holds up, but I thought it was pretty good when I watched it. And I watched this and I liked it, I guess. But it sucks kind of. But we'll get into that.
That's all right. I mean, that's par for the course. This movie does not suck in it's weird because it doesn't suck in the sort of Michael Bay way where it's like every single thing is attempting to attack you. It just sucks in like a normal movie way.
Yeah, this movie's pretty bland, I would say. This one's directed by sorry if I butchered the name, Jonathan Liebesman. He also did Battle LA and Wrath of the Titans. So
I did not know that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I would say a pretty solid, mediocre action filmography from the early 20s.
He's a trend follower.
Yeah.
Michael Bay and Chris Nolan are trendsetters for the genre of that era. This guy, like you just listed, well, I guess you listed two, but including three movies, each of those movies are like, man, that's 2010 action, all right.
Yep.
Like Boy and Ellie, is that a movie that came out during that time for a teenage audience?
I sure did watch that for 5 minutes on cable.
Yeah, genre. As I was saying before this began, I've seen the second one of these movies, or before. I did its entirety on cable. I don't know if it's the same guy directing. I don't feel like it is.
I don't think so.
But that movie's fucking insane. Like it's like a headache. It's I don't know. In this movie, you see little bouts of extreme childlike energy from the turtles. It's that the whole movie.
Yeah, this one's okay. This one's odd because you know how like with the Transformers movies, it was like a dichotomy between you really wanted to see the turtles, but like the human stuff was kind of shit, or not the turtles, the Transformers, but like the human stuff was shit, and that was like a good chunk of the movie.
The turtles. Yeah.
For this movie, I felt the exact opposite. Whereas like, well, the human stuff does take a decent amount of the movie. I thought it was like way better than that stuff with actual turtles because all of that was really bad, or most of it was bad. I should say because there is like one or two good scenes, but like I think the human stuff is like okay-ish for the most part. Like it's like mediocre blockbuster, action. I guess crime drama, and then you also have like the turtles. But like I thought like the stuff with like Megan Fox was like fine for the most part, and then the turtle stuff was just pretty shit.
Sometimes I say these things and you are surprised by them. I'll see if this falls the same way. The reason why I'm inclined with everything you just said, her part in the movie, her involvement, her little pseudo, not even really a character arc, it stops being halfway through, whatever, is because it's just Man of Steel. It's just Lois and Man of Steel.
Yes, it is.
I mean, never been the most interesting part of that movie, but it happens to be the most interesting part of this. Or at least the most consistently interesting part. part of this. I'm also coming from I come from like a background of Transformers out the ass, but a little bit of TMNT in there. And this movie doesn't fundamentally fuck up anything, but it also doesn't go as far as I think it should. I've got almost like a thesis on what they might have done in this movie to fit the demographic, but I don't know if you have anything else to say to start.
Yeah, I guess we'll let's not beat around the bush when it comes to the character designs because Jesus
It's a good place to
Christ,
start.
they're really bad.
Yeah, CGI notwithstanding, which varies from adequate to legitimately comical, the designs are just ugly. And like almost no one's contesting that they're ugly. It's just a simple, like, they're too human. People are like, oh, the ugly Sonic is too human. Ugly Sonic was just normal ugly. These guys look like humans.
Yeah, they're just humans.
I don't fucking know why.
Large and green and a little off.
Wide.
They're just
they're
just in the uncanny valley, and there's like
exactly.
There's no really way to defend them unless like for some reason you were like, oh no, these signs are pretty good. But like I haven't heard anyone with that take.
I don't have that take, but I have the only like silver lining bit of it. I think the base turtle design is icky and wrong. But I like the everything around the character itself, like the turtle. I like their different outfits. I like the fact they actually, because truth be told, I've seen a good amount of TMNT, whether 2012 show, 2003 show, 2007 movie, I think it was. Most of the time, they're just the same fucking character design with a different bandana and weapons. That's pretty much it. Sometimes Ralph is going to be a little more buff. Donatello's a little dweebier. But like in this movie, you can fucking tell them apart. Which is weird because it's the exact opposite issue of Transformers, which made everything a CGI nightmare that you can't tell apart. Weird.
I would definitely say because like the 2012 show, it was definitely easier to tell them apart too. So they definitely took key things from that.
Yeah,
it was like a Nickelodeon movie too. So
Nickelodeon movie didn't do much with that. It was mostly the show in this movie that tried to distinguish them visually.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like I hear like it's just like they took like the cues from like the Transformers movie and like that like the Transformers and Decepticons like designs were all like very busy and they had like a lot of like shit on them and moving parts. They did the same thing with the Turtles, where the Turtles just like are carrying like 20 different things on them that they never use, and they're just and you can just never like really tell like what exactly they're doing other than the basic action. It's just like very
standing or quipping.
Yeah,
I didn't have an issue with the designs being busy like the rest of it, because I especially like Donatello. Like give him a shit ton of tech stuff. Like of all the ideas in this movie that are trying to be, what if TMNT was in the real world? The Donatello having like a full like heads up display and a bunch of fucking cameras and stuff. Like I'm okay with that. That's fine. Like I feel like if this movie existed in animation and did the same kind of thing, I would legitimately say like, oh, I like that. I'm close to liking that part of it. But yeah, the standard monster faces and oh god, I think my least favorite part is that on their giant toes they have giant toenails.
Oh yeah.
Why did they? Why that?
Oh, gross.
It's like they're fucking turtles. I don't think turtles have human toenails.
I don't believe so, but they're mutants.
That's not like I'm exactly. It's like no, they fucking don't. Why would you do that? But I will say, I guess because we're going through character design, I thought fucking Splinter was like immaculate. That's stupid enough to work for me.
Really?
I love that it had the stupid beard, mustache, mutton chops, fucking top knot. I'm in.
Okay, to be honest,
I thought he was fine.
Yeah. Okay, like I did not enjoy watching him. I thought he was really ugly, but I guess there wasn't really a good way they could make like a CGI Splinter like in the style of the Turtles without making him just like be like a fucking rat with like a beard.
Yeah.
Which I guess like yeah.
I'm more willing to appreciate what they had to do to him if they were going to do it to the Turtles.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's kind of gross and wrong. That's also because the CGI looks bad. Like when he's when he's like slicing at people, foot soldiers, or annoying his students or whatever, it looks like some sort of like the xenomorph moving around.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
Yeah.
when I don't think the base design is that horrible. Just bad effects, bad lighting. It's like how some of the like later movie Transformer designs are like decent robots, but when they have to turn into cars and fucking blow each other's brains out, like it looks even worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The CGI
Even
integration with
oh yeah,
the like when the Splinter or the Turtles like fighting like actual real life people, uh, it was pretty bad. Like it reminded me of like the later Transformers movie where like
yeah.
you could obviously tell that like they were on like different planes of existence. Like they like when Splinter was like fighting like those Foot Clan soldiers like in the sewer, it was very obvious to me that it was just like it was just like the choreograph then to fall down and not just like and not like an actual guy
Yeah.
like fighting them. It was like pretty bad in that regard. Also, Splinter's tail that just when he fights with it that just grossed me out.
That's what I was saying about the xenomorph. Like it literally looked like Mortal Kombat 10 alien hitting people with its tail. But that's the exact thing. Like that was brought into my mind like the second I saw that shit. So
It
I'm not
rocked
gonna
my
say like
world.
I like the designs, but I think the designs could have been good at one point.
Yeah, I
I
guess
guess
so.
that's more. I know like, oh, missed potential. This it's still not good. Like I understand that like kind of like logical fallacy. But like I'm trying to give it credit where credit's due. One thing that I feel like we might be on the opposite end of is I fucking did not like the Shredder at all. I thought it
Yeah,
was
no.
enormously stupid.
Shredder was bad in this movie. Like to be honest,
Well,
okay, so like there were like two. I guess like getting to the plot a little bit. There are two main villains in this movie. Shredder and Eric Sachs played wonderfully by William Fichtner, but we'll get into that later. They
he's
really could have just made like they could really just could have combined them into one villain. I think it would have been pretty much the same.
okay.
Either either or really, but I guess like Shredder's like the more popular one. And then like the main villain of the show.
I have a theory, and this could just be true. I haven't looked it up,
Yeah.
but in the same vein as Fan Four Stick, I think they were going to be the same character. That the guy they got to play the Shredder feels the most like fucking reshoot. Like, oh, we can't have the white man be the Shredder. Like exactly like Von Doom in Fan Four Stick. I I don't actually know if that's true, but the 2007 movie, it was also just some random like white businessman that was the Shredder, and people fucking hated it.
Yeah. I think
I
that does
literally
make
think
sense.
I think it was course correction. I think it was like we have William Fichtner, who's this is real actor. He's gonna be playing the Shredder, and we're like, oh fuck no, he's not. So like, oh, we need an Asian guy stat,
Yeah, I mean, like,
and then
if they
they
wanted, like, yeah, if they wanted, like, them to get this straight from the beginning, they probably should have cast an Asian guy instead of William Fichtner. But like, yeah, if they're gonna like, if they actually had a story that they wanted to tell, it probably would have been better just to have him instead of just course correcting and doing Shredder poorly like they did.
well, I have two things about that. Firstly, I just want to add the last bit of I believe to be evidence. Remember the whole weird exposition dump about him being like raised in Japan?
Yeah,
I eventually ended up being like, oh, the Shredder was his master. There's no way that scene wasn't just his origins as the Shredder, right? Like, why would he have this elaborate, like, born in Japan history if they weren't going to just be like, oh, that's why the white guy is Shredder?
I don't know. You're
I,
probably
I'm,
right.
I'm
Yeah,
very convinced in this. But also, this is going to be a fucking flaming take. I don't think the Shredder is usually good in anything. He's really boring.
yeah. For the
He's
most
like,
part,
oh,
he
he's
is.
cool and angular, but he's just like evil.
Yeah,
He doesn't like even the 2012 show, which gave every character a pretty good heaps of depth. I don't. The Shredder in that show was kind of a flat line for me.
yeah, I agree. He's definitely just like the regular menacing evil villain.
Presence,
But
yeah,
there
he's
was
he's
something in
like,
that show
like
that
yo man.
wasn't this movie that kind of pissed me off. I guess it was. I don't want to say it was a retcon because this is a reboot and they can really do whatever they want with it. Actually, you know what? We'll get into it later. But yeah, Shredder's generally pretty boring.
I'm curious. I'm curious what you're even talking about.
Well, because in
Oh, never
the
mind. Never mind. I figured it out.
yeah Well, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, Shredder's pretty boring in the most of the TMNT continuity. He's boring in this. Definitely more so because he's like nothing to do, or than be
I
like,
believe
or than be Eric Sack's
he was
bitch
made at it.
ball sack.
Yeah,
Why do you say we start
yeah.
getting to?
I felt actually
Sorry,
the
you can go.
story. Yeah, there's not much of it, so I think that would be nice. Get
Yeah,
over
I think
with
we'll
before
just
we get into the weird,
go through it.
nitpicky stuff.
So for the first like 20 minutes of this movie, it basically just follows April O'Neil trying to expand
Act.
her, I guess,
Uh,
better her career as a reporter by investigating the Foot Clan, who's giant like crime syndicate throughout New York City at the moment. I just want to say the Foot Clan is a really stupid ass name, but that's by the point. It's like in everything.
okay, brief before I go another tangent. Foot Clan's a stupid name. I would be willing to accept it if they were just fucking ninjas.
Oh
They're
yeah,
just
they were
terrorists.
and they weren't in this movie.
They're
They're just
just
like
they're just
crime
guys with
syndicate.
guns. That's another part of what I'll call it a thesis for dramatic effect. But you can continue with the actual
Yeah.
story stuff.
So so yeah, Megan Fox plays April O'Neil, and to be honest, I thought she did a fairly decent job. Like it's like for the I was like I wouldn't say I was like invested in the story, but like I was like semi interested in seeing like where it was going. Cause it was basically just like a weird crime drama for like the first like 20 minutes of this movie. Like trying to figure out like what was happening in New York with the Foot Clan, who the vigilantes were, who were kicking their asses, and like okay, so I don't know if like Megan Fox and Michael Bay made up because like she's in this and Michael Bay produced it. Uh, but I think for the most part, like she does a fairly good job of what she's doing. Like it's not like I think she like got nominated for a Razzie for this movie, which is like really like she did fine for, like what she was given. She's definitely not like a I don't think she's a tier above General Bay girls where she's generally capable of doing what she's doing. She wants to be she's a fairly decent reporter and wants to uh further her career, and while she acts crazy because she on Ninja Turtles, she's generally right in most regards, I would say. So yeah, I think Megan Fox as April is definitely not the worst thing about this movie.
Yeah, people are just like, oh, Megan Fox, she was horrible in different movies. She's horrible in this. I mean, she's not great in this, but if you like, most of the time I'm watching this, like, oh, she's like kind of acting. Uh, like in Transformers One, it felt like everything she's saying was sarcastic.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been, but we don't know because it's such a like bad, probably poorly directed as a performance, but also like just probably like not. But in this, like there were moments where I'm like, I get that exact like, excuse me, are you an alien? Kind of like I've never acted in my life delivery, but not nearly as often as you'd think. And as a character, I mean, April O'Neil as a besides really that once again that 2012 show, April O'Neil is essentially just like reporter, Lois Lane style, more proactive than Lois Lane in most situations, and that is reflected in this. She does drive a good amount of the story forward, considering not
Yeah.
a lot, but like more than you'd expect from this sort of Michael Bay, there are creatures but also humans movie.
Mm-hmm.
She's a bit of a go-getter as a character and as an entity in the movie.
Yeah,
I
I
guess.
definitely agree with that. Uh, she's also joined by Will Arnett as Vernon Fenwick. I had to look him up to see if he's an actual TMNT character. Yes, he is. I don't think he was in the 2012 show, but I don't know. I love Will Arnett, and like he was like kind of funny in this, but like I think for the most part he was like a very unnecessary character, other than being able to drive April and other people places.
Yeah, he's the chauffeur.
Yeah.
I like Will Arnett as well most of the time. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm getting like a bit of fatigue with especially like the last years and effectively everything. But I didn't think he was unfunny, but he after watching Bumblebee, his character is almost exactly the same as the love interest in that. Like
Yeah, kind of.
the same, like mildly like, oh, is she into me? Like, I mean, at this point, he's a little more arrogant, like a little more sarcastic. That's Will Arnett is arrogant and sarcastic is like part of the persona for pretty much all the characters he decides to play. But in this, he was not entirely redundant because he's like kind of the ground. Like April O'Neil is, oh, I'll get the news stuff, and then he's like, yeah, you get him. Like, would she have done that without him? I don't know. So maybe he has a purpose.
Yeah. So what else is that? So I guess like there's not too much to discuss until like the turtles come around because like they really reminded me of, as you said, like with Man of Steel, like Superman, like Lois Lane, but also kind of reminded me of like a lot of like the Batman movies, like kind of like a mix between like '89 and Dark Knight, and that like like because like New York City in this case is like rampant with crime. There's mass vigilantes, and there's always like people trying to figure out who that person is. Blah blah blah. Not necessarily in tone, but like I guess on like very basic general plot structure.
So like literal, like this is what is happening.
Yeah, I guess
I'll say the first 20 minutes are very reminiscent of specifically Batman 89 because that follows
yeah
non-Batman characters
yeah
and then it
Dickeyville.
leads up to the big crescendo reveal.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, there's a similarity there.
Yeah, and then
Mm.
I guess we should discuss like because like she tries to she she um she tries she fuck what am I even saying? She goes to where the Foot Clan is like trying to steal shit or whatever, not ninjas, just random thugs, and she sees the mass vigilantes going out and kicking their asses, and she tries to go to her news station to tell them about it, and the head is played by Whoopi Goldberg, which I completely forgot about. she was which was pretty odd. I was pretty taken aback by that, and she obviously no one believes her because who will believe whatever the fuck she says. And I guess as it continues, we see. I don't want to say we see her mental state deteriorate, but like we see from other people's perspectives how crazy she is. That what she's seeing is happening. Uh, sorry, I'm rambling, but like anyway, like around the 20 minute mark.
You're really getting it. Like that's what happens. Like, oh man, April, you're crazy. That's not real. Like this sort of thing.
Yeah, we see like her roommate go like when she's like getting really deep into the turtle shit. We see her
The
go, Mom, I
madness.
want to move out or move
that,
back
that
home.
but yeah, also that is something about April is that the performance is fine, the character is mostly intact, but they're just like, oh, is she supposed to be like young in college?
I don't know. I kind
Like,
of figured that she's just like I kind of figured that
said
she's like
for a few years she has a degree, but also everyone calls her girl. Like not just the ancient shredder, like everyone, including Will Arnett. We don't even know
yeah.
how
I
old
don't
his
know.
character's
I
supposed to
kind of
be.
figured that she's probably like I'm assuming she's like uh recently got the job and she's trying to and she's living with someone like
Like late 20s.
yeah. I don't know
Maybe that was
something.
the implication.
Hey, sorry about that. So we're actually recording this now, like 2 or 3 days after we recorded the first 20 or so minutes, because for some reason OBS just stopped working, and we recorded for like another 30 or 40 minutes without getting recorded. So here we are now, finishing what we started. So yeah, just apologies if we like don't cover something or like we might maybe repeat like one thing that we mentioned in the first 20 minutes. It's all good though. Hopefully, yeah. So, uh, yeah, where were we? I think we just covered where Megan Fox was going crazy about, or at least we think that she's going crazy regarding her seeing the
Well,
turtles.
we don't. We know the turtles are real. Everyone
Yeah.
else is. It's the classic, like in this sort of movie trope. Like I saw the insert nebulous force or entity here, and no one would believe them because it doesn't make sense to exist. But we, the audience member, follow her search for vindication. It's a very like a classical movie thing.
Mm. I'm curious
And
if
that
there's any like movies out there that actually have like something where it's like, yeah, these we know like not like it's an already established franchise, but like someone's like, yeah, we know these characters. This is not crazy. Like imagine if there's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie where it's like, oh yeah, these turtles, no, they're fine. No, they just walk around. But I guess that wouldn't add to
That's
That would add the fun plotting. I
that's
guess.
very close to the second movie. Because I mean, the subtitle is "Out of the Shadows." They just say "fuck it." Any interesting aspect to them being secretive is partially dropped because reasons. I guess because it's easier to shoot in just random action scenes in day.
Looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, anyway, so I guess like around the time where we meet the turtles, and I'm not sure if we actually know yet. We talked about this where Michelangelo is a huge fucking perv, but like that's beside the point. April soon realizes that we get to like this weird plotting, or I guess like slight retconning that I don't believe was in any other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles adaptations, where after they meet and April finds out their names are Leonardo and Donatello, blah blah blah. We get this not flashback, but we get these. April goes back to these old recordings and realizes that the turtles and Splinter were her pets, which her dad did experiments on, and fucking William Fichtner was her boss. Was his boss, and I don't believe I'm pretty sure in like almost every other adaptation that the turtles were just like I think in some they were like test subjects, but there was like no correlation between April and the turtles before they were actually Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I found that a little odd, and I think the oddest thing is that Splinter was I'm pretty sure in most other adaptations that Splinter was a guy and not a rat before he got hit with the mutagen or ooze or whatever it's called in that version. So that leads to some odd what do you say, like plot or character dynamics between him and Splinter later on in the movie. But
yeah, I can elaborate a bit. I mean, I can't confirm or deny, like, oh man, this character, like, there might be some version where there's some closer connection between the characters, but it's the kind of thing I took the piss out of during Bumblebee. I'm like, man, am I happy this movie doesn't shoehorn in some stupid connection between the characters and the human characters and the non-human characters. But this movie just does that like plainly. The thing is, for like a movie writing sense, I guess it's like, oh, if we create this stupid fucking shoehorn connection between the main characters, then there'll be more emotional stakes. When it doesn't necessarily, and in this case, absolutely doesn't add anything emotionally. And like you mentioned briefly with Splinter, makes it much more confusing. I mean, I guess the idea was like, man, it's kind of implausible that a guy would be hit with ooze and turn into a rat. But then it becomes a rat teaches himself martial arts, the point of being able to go toe-to-toe with actual fucking martial artists.
Yeah. So, we're shifting around a bit, but like there's also that they have like this little origin thing after we find out April saved Splinter and the turtles, and we find out like Splinter raises the turtles, blah blah blah, whatever. That's like in every adaptation. Then instead of knowing martial arts beforehand, which makes sense, it's like a years long commitment to actually getting good. He's like, oh yeah, I taught myself, and then I taught the turtles. Like, okay, like obviously this might be nitpicking because this is a stupid ass movie with giant rats and turtles, but like
turtles,
it just doesn't make sense. And I think we already mentioned this, but Splinter in this movie is really fucking boring and almost doesn't need to be in it.
He's a figurehead. He's like he's the idea of discipline.
Oh, sorry, not Splinter. Oh, sorry, I was talking about. Well, yeah, Splinter is kind of boring, but Shredder is in this movie and almost doesn't need to be in it. But the thing that made him almost a little interesting in the other adaptations, because he's not like that great in most other adaptations either, is that him and Splinter knew each other before he turned to a rat, and they had history together. So in this movie, when they eventually go toe to toe, there's no emotional weight to it, and doesn't necessarily, and it's just like a boring fight between a giant, between basically like Iron Man Jr. and giant CGI rat, so it doesn't fucking matter, and who cares? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're only harping on like the strangeness of Splinter's origin because it's something they consciously changed. Yes, this series and this movie are fucking stupid, but they changed something that I'm sure someone was like, "Oh, that makes more sense." That actually makes less sense in practice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I definitely in the cut audio that unfortunately we're never getting, and possibly in the audio before this. Sorry to say, I can't remember. I went at lengths theorizing that William Fichtner's character was just going to be the Shredder the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot. I think there's a decent amount of evidence within the movie. It wouldn't exactly improve the Splinter. Well, actually, it kind of would because he used him as a test subject.
Yeah.
And to the point where the CGI rat and the suit of armor, you could just easily CGI the rat's mouth, or you can just add ADR dialogue for Shredder. And at the very end, just quick moment, there's an anticlimactic fight with the Shredder, and then you have because it's the martial arts master, William Fichtner's official martial arts master, that is.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual business guy is in a shootout sort of thing with April and Vern, and then I don't even remember what happens to him. Neither of us do.
Yeah. We're so swimming around, but who cares at this point?
It feels very reshot.
Yeah, we don't know what happens. Or at least I don't think we know what happens to him. I guess it was supposed to be oh, we might come back. Who knows? But his story feels very haphazardly thrown together. Probably, or maybe because he was supposed to be Shredder. Now, I feel like the story they chose, there was no right thing they could have done in this situation, because if they made him Shredder, that would have been the kind of racist, because Shredder I think has always been Japanese. But it would have made more sense for the story they chose.
Which is probably why they changed it.
Yeah, which is why, and then they changed it, and then it just feels so haphazardly thrown together and not good. Yeah, Shredder in this movie is he's just really fucking bad. His suit, I don't think we saw this yet. His suit looks like a small version of the one from the Wolverine.
Silver Samurai from the Wolverine. Anyone who's seen either of these movies says that, but it's really, really fucking hard to not be oh, that just looks like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of having a sword like the Silver Samurai does, he just has a trillion knives in his gloves that he throws in slow motion.
I wonder if they did that. Maybe he originally had a sword, but after seeing the Wolverine, how similar they look, Shredder and him look in those movies, they're oh shit, we can't have him have a sword, then it would be too obvious. Let's just have him have a million knives that he throws at people. Well,
I guess that's plausible, but I think most of the Shredder designs have arm blades, but it's 3 to 5 of them. So okay, the Shredder has blades on his arm. How do we make it cooler? Just quadruple the number of them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
I think that's it.
But wait, Michael Bay way.
The Michael way of doing it.
The Michael way. Yeah. Oh, God.
Classic.
I guess going back to the plot a bit.
The plot.
The quote unquote plot. We get some action scene, or after we find out that after April finds out about the turtles, and the turtles bring her back down, and we get that huge exposition dump about
this quite massive
origin. We barely get, after we finally get these characters together. We get this I don't want to say huge action scene, but this pretty shitty action scene of the Foot Clan, the Foot guys, I should say, because they're not ninjas.
The feet.
Yeah. Storming the sewers and trying to. What do they want? They want to kill. They want
to subdue the turtles because the mutagen in their blood can be used for William Fichtner's diabolical plan, which is. Oh, we're going to talk about that again. That's my favorite part of the movie, so I'm actually not even mad about that.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So yeah, they steal them. So that they go. So they go to the sewers to steal them, and I think like at this point in the movie, I realized that. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry if we mention this. I'm pretty sure we didn't. But the love or hate like the first two Transformers movies, but the CGI integration of the Transformers into that world is actually pretty good.
at least the first movie.
Yeah, at least the first movie. Like you can kind of sort of believe that Optimus Prime is standing next to Shia LaBeouf or whatever. In this movie, especially during the action scenes, they feel extremely disconnected. Like, especially the stuff with Splinter, when you see like him like taking on like 5-foot guys at once. Like it truly feels like that he is not there, and they just like they just like photoshopped him into the.
You're breaking up, buddy.
Sorry, what?
You're breaking up, buddy.
I can hear you fine.
Oh, well,
Please
I can't hear you
work,
very well.
Please. I can't do this.
Fingers crossed.
Please.
Here we get a look into the ongoing, well of suffering
The
that
fans
is
are
Prime
clamoring for
Privilege.
the TMNT episode. They need it.
It's fucking God is trying to strike it down, apparently.
Yeah. But yeah, so like especially Splinter's tail in this movie really fucking creeps me out. Like the way he like chokes people and slams them onto the ground. It's like
It is. It's like a unique idea. Like, oh, yeah, he's a rat. Rats have weird, gross tails. Like, let's use that. But then they need to remember that they need a CGI an organic thing. Already bad enough. But you're CGIing something that in nature already looks fucking gross.
Mm-hmm.
With bad effects anyway. So it's like it was doomed to fail.
Yeah.
As a visual effect, just on by virtue of budget, what it's based on, how little they fucking care.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, going off that for a second, there really isn't a perfect way to make a live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, is there? Like,
because if it's all
because the ones in the '90s with like the rubber suits, well, I know
the
a lot of people
rubbery
like them.
suits.
Yeah, they're really fucking. They look really fucking cheesy and obviously are not believable at all. But also on the complete opposite of the spectrum with this movie, when they try to have these hyper detailed, like almost human like turtles, they just look weird, look very uncanny. And since I know that they're trying to make another live action movie, that there's like I have no idea what the best. Yeah, I just have no idea what the best course of action would be. Like, there's just no perfect world for this, I guess.
No, even in animation, they've kind of haven't had much focus in trying to get the designs ready because it's just a weird idea. Too. Transformers. I mean, it's not like the question of Transformers like people in suits. No, you use visual effects and make big robots because there's no flesh. Yeah, you get a bunch of parts, a bunch of car bits. But that's effectively it. These are living, breathing things, but they're also living, breathing things that don't exist. Turtles exist, I know, but like human turtles with fucking toenails and shit, not real.
Nope. Ugh, those fucking toenails, gross.
I'm gonna keep mentioning it until. Actually, I don't know. I'm gonna stop. I probably should just stop at that.
Yeah. If there's a Baycast fan who likes hearing Michael talk about the toenails, then
not talk about them, just invoke their name.
Then leave your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, yeah. So soon after that fight, all the turtles are captured by the Foot Clan except for Raphael, and then him and April and Will Arnett.
He has to convene with the humans and the wounded Splinter. Like, oh shit, what do we do now? Kind of.
Oh yeah, Splinter's almost dead. I forgot to mention.
We're talking about him being like. Effectively, like he's a gross, horrible effect that doesn't look particularly good and is icky, and but he's also like his purpose is to spout, as is the case for a lot of these sensei type characters, is to just spout exposition, describe the character arc the character should be going through, and then either get wounded, killed, or written out of the movie. Thankfully, he is not killed, or no, unfortunately, he is not killed, but. He is both wounded and written out of most of the movie.
Yeah, he's just a plot device to encourage the turtles, specifically Raphael, to do better
work together.
Yeah.
Be more disciplined.
this part of the movie, well, I don't want to say I like, but like I appreciate because really, even though like this is a only like a 100-minute movie or whatever, the turtles really don't have much time to develop at by themselves, other than their very basic character traits. So I'm glad that Raph, out of all the turtles, gives a little more time to himself and to, I guess try to do better and save his brothers. But even then, like, it's pretty basic and
the illusion of development. He doesn't really develop. It is, to be fair, it is a section of the movie where you see more of the character besides the archetype that the series has gone with for quite a long time. It's not development. He doesn't change. You just kind of learn a bit more, and at the end of the movie, you're like, oh, okay, maybe Raph has more than 2 character traits, but that's about as far as it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really not very very well developed, but it's what you expect. So I don't think I'm great. So I think So pretty soon after that, they go to William Fichtner's mansion. Oh, what the fuck is this character's name again? Eric Sachs. Yeah, Sachs. Yeah.
How did we forget Sachs? We were saying it so much in the other part.
Yeah, haha, funny. So they go to Sax's mansion to escape, and then pretty much from like that point in the movie on, it's pretty much just like an entire it's just like one big action scene, or it's not one big action scene, it's just like a series of action scenes, and it kind of like stops like the general three point structure of like most narratives. And kind of just, like,
real movie.
Yeah, because like at that point you're like, it was like the second. It was like kind of like going into. It was kind of like the second act, and you're like kind of going into the third act almost, and then but pretty much like the rest of the movie on is almost just like a giant third act. But whatever, I digress. So this part's interesting because the movie becomes almost entertaining for like a good 10 to 15 minutes when they're like bailing the turtles out.
The rest of the turtles,
and escaping.
Well, let's go with how that scene starts, because that's my favorite part of the movie. Okay, one of your favorites too, from what I recall. They end up in Raph, April, and Vern begin going there. They have they talk about stuff. Vern says something silly, the normal order of things. But then you go back to the facility that the rest of the turtles are being held. Sax just begins explaining his plan. Mm-hmm. One of them says like, "What's your evil plan, Sax?" And he's like, "Oh, allow me to tell you," in the most casual way possible. And his plan, and just the way he delivers, the exposition about his plan is just really fucking funny, because he's talking about using the mutagen in the blood of Splinter and the turtles. Splinter's not there. They have always said like, "Oh, if we have Splinter, he's got the same mutagen too." The plan is get the mutagen, funnel it into this gas-producing device, a la Amazing Spider-Man 1, at the top of his building in New York City, which unleashes a extremely deadly gas, not the mutagen, just a different gas, that just fucking kills people and makes New York City in its entirety uninhabitable for months or possibly years. Then he is going to take the mutagen he got from the turtles and or Splinter and use it as a cure. That was the original intention, to use it as some sort of biological cure. I mean, it made turtles into non-turtle creatures. I guess the implication is that it would make humans into healthier humans. I don't fucking know.
I don't know what they were going for with that.
Yeah, I feel like maybe if you use it on a rat and a turtle and it makes them like horrible monsters, it would be nice to not do that on humans.
I guess maybe the implication was that it doesn't work the same way on humans in this continuity as it does as other animals, but that's retconned in the second movie.
The second movie just has like monsters that were humans. Yeah. So yeah, they either retcon it in this or they retcon it in that. Either way, there's some bullshit going on. So he's gonna administer the mutagen like vaccine style to all of New York, and then become rich. He ends the story about how he's willing to kill fucking tens of millions of people with I'll be rich. he says, "I'll be rich," like stupid rich.
Yeah.
That's and that, at that moment you realize this character, underdeveloped and stupid as he is exactly as complex as he seems. There is no fucking pretense of like make the world a better place. No, he is just an evil son of a bitch that wants money. And at that point, the character went from like kind of funny to like really funny, because you then know that the entire evil plot is like it's just paper thin. No nuance, nothing.
Yeah, I'm almost trying to be like, like a shitty like 90s action movie in like that regard of how like these villains have like this super like stupid, not even like stupid or I guess in some ways pretty complicated plan just to become rich in the end, even though they're probably like already well off anyway. But like I don't think it's just like
he has a full building in New York City.
Yeah, it's not even
he
like
has
a bad
2
thing.
mansions,
It's just, like, really
pretty much.
funny. This movie, Eric Stack's plan, this movie got enjoyment out of me. It made me laugh. And you know what? If his plan actually made sense, then I'm not even sure if the movie would have been better. What would be better? Having a boring plan that makes sense, or having a really really stupid plan that?
Well, that's why Amazing Spider-Man 1 is funny, because like the lizard is usually this really interesting character, and in the movie he's just like everyone's going to be a lizard. Like that is funny. This is funny. It's the same stupid idea, kind of. Not exactly, but the basic concept is similar.
Yeah.
that's how we'll say the good chunk of the movie, because it is the best part of the film, starting that stupid exposition dump. Because there's been exposition dumps in this movie. There's plenty of them, and they're not fun. That was fun.
Yeah.
So you have the 3 turtles in the complex, and then Raph, Vern, Megan Fox, April. Yeah. Not a joke. Real slip of the tongue there. They just go in, and there's Shredder's there, and he's beating the shit out of Raph, and Karai's there, and I don't think she does a single action thing in the whole movie. She's pretty funny. She doesn't do anything in the movie.
I don't think we really mentioned her in the last recording. But
yeah, she was a tag at the end of the unseen, unheard part of the episode. The
lost Baycast episode, even though
the lost episode. But it's like, oh, Karai's actually in this movie. That's nice, and then does fuck all.
Yeah, because in the 2012 show, she was actually like a pretty interesting character that got developed throughout it. In this movie, she's I guess the head Foot Clan soldier, but like you barely see her and she barely has any lines. She's just like, it would be a good. I guess she's kind of like the Boba Fett to Shredder's Darth Vader, but like
yeah.
Like somehow it has even less to do than Boba Fett did in episode 5 and 6.
Yeah, people like Boba Fett. I don't think anyone's like, oh man, Karai was so cool in TMNT 1.
There had to have been at least a couple of hardcore TMNT fans who are like, so good in this movie.
The second movie maybe, because she's in that movie and recast, but she actually has like more than 2 things to do, if I remember correctly, in that.
Yeah. So soon after that, the Raphael and I guess all of them break the turtles out and
using adrenaline. They get them hopped up, and you get a kind of amusing scene where they're all super energized. So they're both like stronger because of adrenaline, but they're also like loopy as hell. Mm-hmm. It's like cute, I guess. I don't know.
I think I like it, not necessarily for the jokes, because the jokes are lame, but I like it in that I like how it's like applied to the action scene shortly after that, where like they're escaping and like going down the mountain, where like they're so like amped up that they were able to do these cool things. Which when they escape, like they start like driving down this like just giant mountain, I guess like from Sax's mansion, and I gotta say this was definitely the best action scene in the movie, and probably the most entertaining part of the movie, and because like it's decently well choreographed, and that the turtles actually work together into doing something, to defeating the Foot Clan, and it has, I don't know, like all the turtle skills are like well applied, and they use explosion in the right places. I don't know, it's just like a decent action scene for like what it is, I guess. Definitely the best.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. It's not just a good scene for this movie. It would just be a good scene in any kind of action movie. Because the idea of action scene going down a hill, like, that's not exactly revolutionary, but they're riding a big ass truck down a hill. Raph's like in the back, kind of hurt, and the rest of them have to fend off the rest of the foot soldiers. They're on like motorcycles and buggies and shit like that. The scene has some legit like energy, momentum to it, which is rare for this movie. There's a lot of crap CGI blobs against each other, but it's also crap CGI blobs that aren't doing anything interesting or dynamic.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not going to say remedies. That doesn't fix the rest of the movie, but it in itself does the kind of things that you'd expect out of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie with the budget of a Michael Bay blockbuster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, I like this scene in. Well, I already said they actually work together. I think this is the first scene where they actually work together to defeat a force stronger than them. Literally a few scenes later, they do it in the most stereotypical. I get the most stereotypical. We're in this together, and Leo plans it out. Blah 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 blah. It's oh yeah, we got this. It's in the it's just so. I'm not sure if I should talk about this now, but after they do this stupid fucking turtle jumping on each other thing to defeat Shredder. And it's the most generic teamwork thing that you could think of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was done way better in the previous scene, where it was done in a way more natural way. But yeah, it was done good in this scene, not the one 10 minutes after.
Directly after.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a good scene, and after that they're back in New York, and the finale is quite generic. As we already stated, Megan Fox and Will Arnett's character, April and Megan Fox, and
all of a sudden we're April.
Vern, yeah, April and Vern defeat Sax. We're not sure if he's dead or not. I don't think he died. I think they're probably saving him for a future movie that never happened. And the Turtles defeat Splinter, and as I said, that weird jumping motion.
The Turtles defeat Splinter. And that would be a twist. Yeah. You mean Shredder, right? I'm not insane.
Keep saying Splinter.
No, yeah, I just like the phrase "the Turtles defeat Splinter."
Yeah, the Turtles defeat Shredder.
Fuck you, Master.
By the way, I don't think we mentioned this, but Splinter is voiced by the same guy from Pain and Gain, who
Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah. Which I think is pretty funny. Which I didn't know until the movie.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to guess.
Yeah. So I guess in some ways he's a pretty good voice actor if you're not able to guess that. But yeah, they defeat Shredder in the most stereotypical teamwork way possible, and not really much happened after that. I mean, the building falls, and then Raph confesses to always loving the Turtles because he thinks
it's like a generic but wholesome scene where the stern edgy guy expresses that he really loves his buddies, and it's a good enough culmination of what little he has to do in the movie. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the funniest moments of the movie is when that happens. It plays a stock fucking record scratch.
Oh my god, yeah, it does.
It's seriously, guys? Really? Okay, I get this is the kind of movie where it's it's something emotional and almost real happening. Let's fucking destroy it and ruin it with but you couldn't have picked. Was the thing they're on crashing down not enough? You had to add a 1995 record scratch? It's the kind of thing you'd see in one of the fucking original movies.
I mean, I guess you could say it's faithful to that because it had that, but not really. Yeah, it's.
I didn't mean a part of the movies I would enjoy. I just mean something that a movie from that era would have.
Yeah, it's true. Oh,
God, that was almost a compliment, or perhaps an insult to the original movies, in which it was actually neither.
Yeah.
Easy to make that mistake.
Yeah. So yeah, not really much happens. So yeah, I guess the day is saved, and the Turtles go out in the shadows and hide on the Victoria's Secret poster's tits.
Well, that's the credit-esque scene. There is one scene that I always like thinking about it. It didn't feel very long, but it was actually like 10 minutes of Vern bringing April to some old crusty parking lot so the turtles can show off the part. What the fuck is it? It's not the turtle van. It has a name.
It does have a name, but we'll just call it the turtle car.
The turtles van. I mean, I it's also kind of funny when you see it because the turtles in this movie are like absolutely. Oh, I was right. My sleeper the sleeper agent got the name right, but the one thing another random nitpick. Like I know I do that. I'm sorry. I just feel like I have to apologize at least once. No, and the other episode had a lot more of that. But the other part of the episode, should I say? But the turtles in this movie are giant, like fucking 8-foot behemoths. The turtle van is like half the size it normally is.
Yeah, it's like a clown car.
Yeah, it really is like a turtle clown car. And Donnie, like the hilarious joke where Donnie's like, "Oh, we got direct TV, we got big speakers, we got like chips and dip or whatever the fuck he says." And I'm like, how does that fit in there? I can imagine that on the real turtle van, but this small thing. This isn't even like this movie's bad. It's just like it doesn't make sense for any turtles to have a vehicle that small. They actually do remedy that in the other movie where the turtle van is like exactly what it looks like in the the classic toy line and shit. But like they weren't willing to do that yet. A lot about this movie for me is underscored by the fact that this is a movie ripping on the Transformers formula, so it can't be too wacky, but it also, by virtue of being a stupid series, can't be too realistic. The second movie is trying to be like a fucking cartoon. This movie is even weirder in retrospect for me. It's like it was kind of grounded, that it goes completely insane.
Yeah, it is a very odd movie in that regard. It's an odd Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, but like it's a very stereotypical early to mid 2010s Hollywood blockbuster. It's very generic in that regard, but like yeah, it's just like I guess like before we go into some trivia, I guess like my thoughts is that like this movie is like fine, I guess, for what it is, but like it's just like not. It's just like what it is just isn't very good. Like I don't hate it. It's like it's pretty bad, but like it doesn't like get like that much of a reaction out of me. Maybe it's just because I'm like not a huge TMNT fan or a fan of these types of movies. But like yeah, it's just like it is what it is,
It's status quo for this sort of blockbuster. It falls into the same vein as like Battleship or maybe a little bit of Battle LA, where it's just a movie that's like, oh, Michael Bay's Transformers movies made billions of dollars. We're gonna make a movie kind of like that. And in Battleship's case, it's a Hasbro property. In this thing's case, it's an 80s childhood property. But the end result for all the above is weirdly similar in terms of how it feels and how most people feel off of, getting out. I can imagine a kid liking this because it's got like, the silly turtles make silly jokes and talk about Orange Crush. But or Battleship is like, oh, it's the guys, the aliens, they shoot the aliens with their ship. Something like Transformers, strangely enough, the precursor to all of this like imitation shit, like not like it's any better or worse. I'm just saying it's all shit and it is an imitation. The Transformers movies are, I can imagine a kid walking out like, what the fuck was that? So I guess I respect this movie for being a little less, being a little more presentable to its target audience than something like Transformers. But in that sense, it's not as interesting to hate as like Transformers 2 or 3. But it's also not as bad as 4 or 5.
Yeah, no.
It's
just what it is, I guess. It's just a bad blockbuster. There's not really much else to say regarding that. It's just not like great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
can go.
I was just going to make like a very small bookend. Like if you're a fan of TMNT, I can't imagine this movie offending you. The other movie, like Transformers, I can imagine being a Transformers film like, what the fuck is this? But this is like it's strange that it's not bastardizing that much of the series, unless you want to say like, oh, April O'Neil knowing the Turtles is dumb, which I mean it is dumb, but it's not canon breaking because it's barely used in this movie, and wouldn't change much in a different property. But it also maintains a lot of the basic hallmarks of a TMNT thing. Characters are the same, the setting's the same, the sort of plot is about the same. It doesn't do anything offensive or radical. It just kind of flops on its face a little bit.
Yeah. It's just whatever. But there is some pretty interesting trivia regarding this movie. We again in the Lost episode we played this like little game where because there's like a piece of trivia that says like the VFX team incorporated the facial features of various actors into the mutant's appearance. So let's just pretend. And actually, do you even remember any of them?
I actually remember them pretty well because they were so shocking.
Okay, so I'll just say them then. All right, so Leonardo's face was based off of Tom Hanks and Russell Crowe, which I do not see at all.
Yeah, and also weird people to base just like they're all supposed to be youthful, right? Why are you picking like fucking old ass guys for this?
I guess because Tom Hanks is just like the generic.
He's because he's boring. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Raphael's face was based off of Russell Crowe again and Clint Eastwood.
Which I guess it makes a tiny bit more sense to draw a connection to them, but not a facial connection. They should just be based on the Ninja Turtles from the Ninja Turtles series, I would reckon, but whatever.
Yeah. Donatello's face was based off of Leonard Nimoy, which is probably the one I see the most, even though
it's like, haha, nerd. He's a nerd.
Yeah.
So we'll get the guy that's been in nerd things. Also, amusingly, was in Transformers 3.
True.
And, well, okay, wait, no. Actually, Leonard Nimoy voiced Sentinel Prime in Transformers 3, who was based on Sean Connery. There's a lot of face fuckery with this stuff.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Michelangelo's face was based off of Bill Murray, which, like,
I joked that is the most accurate because Bill Murray has like a weird wide face like the Turtles, which was probably a little too mean. But I don't know that during that section I was too bewildered to think of something actually funny.
Yeah.
I had to hear these for the first time. I mean, you are too. You, the audience. Yes, I'm pointing at you. But this is my second time around, and I'm regurgitating jokes.
Yep. And Splinter's face was based off of Toshiro Mifune, who's like in a bunch of Miyazaki movies, so I guess that one probably makes the most sense.
It makes the most sense because they actually decided to give Splinter the most
Miyazaki,
needy.
Kurosawa. My bad. Yeah, Kurosawa.
Miyazaki. But the thing about Splinter is that as ugly and disgusting and vile as he is, I think if it wasn't rendered in the like what if Ninja Turtles but real art style that the movie is, of course, decides to render them in. He actually has like the silly like facial hair, top knot, like the mutton chops that is quite iconic to the Splinter design. He actually looks more like he was a man and became a rat than the Turtles look like they were actually fucking turtles.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's not a man in this. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. This isn't listed under the trivia, but I remember watching like this video of the guy who played Raphael talking about how much he hated working on this movie. Alan Richardson. He was basically like roped into the movies like with like the promise that he'd like be recognized as he'd be recognized as the Turtles as someone like Andy Serkis's as like Gollum or King Kong. But obviously this hasn't happened because I don't know who Alan Richardson is other than from this movie that I had to look up. So that obviously didn't work out. And he said like how terrible the experience was, and they basically treated them like second-rate actors. Like how they were often like left in like sets for like a really long time, like after to like because like they were like so difficult to transport and stuff. It was just like it was a very difficult process for him, and I'm assuming everyone else involved, or all the other turtle actors involved, that like I guess that's a lesson not to go into playing mocap characters, but oh well.
Yeah, and it's even, I mean, like, the idea of, oh man, I'll become like popular as a mocap, like, disappointingly is not a reality that pretty much anyone but Andy Serkis and Doug Jones have kind of gotten at this point. But also they did voice act. Everyone but Leonardo is voiced by the stuntmen. So like at that point they are fully portraying the character. So it is kind of a bummer to hear that it was such a miserable fucking experience, because I mean, of all the things that are bad in this movie, you know, the voice acting for the turtles is, except for Johnny Knoxville, because he can't voice act for shit, is fine. And we would say that the action choreography isn't great because they're trying to incorporate the CGI creatures with the quote unquote normal, the unaltered stuntmen. But like it could be worse. It could be like Transformers 4 bad. We're saying that the action scenes are boring, but they're not like offensive to the eye.
Yeah.
People work their asses off.
Mm-hmm. I guess who said this? Was it Michael Bay? Yeah, I think it was Michael Bay. I think we said this before. But it's like it's like I think he said like no matter how much you hate like the Transformers movies, it's still like it employs like thousands of people, which I guess to a certain extent is true with like this movie. Like you're or not, like people work their asses off on this, and to a pretty lackluster product. But I guess you have to appreciate like the work that they did to I guess try to make a competent film. And I guess it is fairly competent for what it is, just not good for what it is.
It's not structured particularly well. It's not acted brilliantly. And it doesn't really make that much sense in the end. But it's a movie through and through. Like you can watch this and be like, oh, this is the story. This is how this character works into the story, or at least is intended to be in the theater experience. Mm-hmm. But like for like the later Transformers movies, or hell, most of the other Michael Bay movies, you might have trouble trying to figure out basic movie components if you think hard about it. So I guess this isn't a failure of a movie in the same way that Transformers: The Last Knight is.
Yeah.
We're just saying that it's not hugely interesting. Like if that's fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One last piece of trivia, that this one's my favorite, and like we were like, and I was laughing my ass off the first time I saw it.
Yeah, no, this was just reading this on the page was a fucking experience, especially because it's organized.
Yeah, I'm just gonna read it from how it is listed on IMDb, and I quote: "Originally, Michelangelo wore a gold chain around his neck, but this got criticism for being a stereotype towards black people, so they digitally replaced." So this got digitally replaced with a seashell necklace to better represent Michelangelo's outgoing surfer and skateboarding personality. Mikey got to wear the gold chain in the sequel. So they had this thing, you know, that I would say pretty rightfully got criticism. So like, oh yeah, we'll change it, and then like just for them to only like abandon it in the sequel, like what, like why? Like,
at least, like I mean, it's not exactly the same caliber of I guess offense. Like in Transformers 2, you have the twins, they're horrible, they're racist, they're obnoxious, but they're not in the next movie because people fucking hated them. Mm-hmm. It's a smaller original offense, but a more like confusing change.
Yeah, very much so.
My guess for that is that they literally just took the original model. I honestly don't. I thought about it after, like I've been thinking about that fact after the original recording, honestly. But I'm like they wouldn't do that purposefully. I think it was just the original like fucking model had the chain, and they didn't want to CG it again because there's so much. Because the next movie, like we're talking about the CGI not being great in this movie. It's really just the Turtles, the Shredder, Splinter, and some of the building in the last part. The next movie is like fucking half CGI. It's like a Transformers movie. They needed to spare the budget to make that movie look passable.
Great. The movie's gonna be awesome.
I think that's gonna be that's the episode I'm like of the non-Michael Bay ones I'm looking forward to, because that is like a Transformers 5 level fucking like nonsense movie.
Very much looking forward to that. All right, I think we pretty much covered everything from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2014.
Yeah, I guess some fun things that we didn't get to. We covered all the things that matter. Some things that we talked about originally and we didn't get to here. During the generally fun, I guess, like snow hill escape scene, there is a part where Megan Fox leans out the window and the camera is centered entirely on her jeaned ass. There is no pretense. There is literally nothing else. If there's any doubt in your mind that, like, oh, they just got Megan Fox because she's in Transformers and she's attractive, there's just a shot. That is that. Mm-hmm. Like, at least in the Transformers movies, all the, the classically, like, oh, look at the woman, they're at least done in an interestingly Michael Bay disgusting fashion. Like, she's always over, like, a car or a motorcycle, right? I'm not saying, oh, man, that's fine, but there was some element you could tell Michael Bay himself, like, I guess that brings into a much larger thing where this movie doesn't feel like a Michael Bay movie because it's not like completely insane, but like most of the entertainment value that Michael Bay's movies have is just also gone.
Yeah, very much so.
This is the second time I've gone to a very weird, almost philosophical segue about the shot of Megan Fox's ass. Why has this happened twice? But
I don't know, Michael. Why has this happened twice?
Well, it happens twice because I'm raising my eyebrow too, just because it's fun, and no one would know if I wasn't. But I'm this being a kind of catch up chunk of the episode. There's not much that we feel like we need to divulge into, because we not only did it the first time, but we went into a lot of small stuff the last time because it's fun. But we're not gonna torrent you with that. Like, again, we've covered most that matters.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything. Thank you guys for watching, and join us next week when we talk about the much needed and anticipated sequel to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Out
of the shadows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're not playing around anymore. That's probably the tagline. I don't know.
Out of the Shadows probably doesn't have a tagline because the subtitle is a tagline.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Take care, folks.